ClandesTime.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to ClandesTime. I am Tom Secker, coming to you from the grassy knolls of North Yorkshire, and this is episode 70, Fun with FOIA Part 2. It's been quite a long time since I did the first Fun with FOIA episode, almost 2 years now, so I thought I'd do a follow-up to talk about what has happened since then, what I'm currently up to in terms of FOIA requests, and what I hope is coming in the future. For those of you who don't remember, or weren't following my work back then, in ClandesTime episode 25, I revealed the DoD database or list of films that the Pentagon has provided production assistance to. At the time, I said it was incomplete, which has since been confirmed by multiple sources. My friend Matt Alford has had some email contact with Phil Strubb, the DoD's Chief Entertainment Liaison Officer, who said that the database was incomplete. We have also obtained via FOIA requests reports from the Army, Air Force and Marine Corps Entertainment Liaison Offices that list several major films, Avatar and Pacific Rim among them, that were not included on the list released to me in early 2014. There are also a significant number of minor or independent films from all over the world that the Pentagon has assisted, but which were likewise absent from the DoD's database. The reports from the Pentagon's Entertainment Liaison Offices are truly amazing to me, in the region of 3,500 pages of documents recording not just their involvement in film and TV, but their other activities too, from appearing on panels at Comic-Con through to high-level meetings with studio executives to try and shape forthcoming productions before they've even been written. I have written a series of articles on these documents outlining exactly what it is that the Pentagon does in the entertainment industry, that regular visitors to spyculture.com will be aware of, but in terms of my ongoing research, there are two major upshots of this. Number one, the documents do not include many details, and for the most part don't include any details at all, of the script changes requested by the DoD in exchange for their assistance on all of these hundreds of films and TV shows. This is perhaps the most important element of this phenomenon of state sponsorship of entertainment, and we have pretty much no information about it since David Robb's book in 2004. This is what Matt Alford specialises in, the political dimensions, and so he found it a bit frustrating going through these files. Nonetheless, the reports do refer to script changes and to script notes provided to the producers by the DoD's liaison offices, so this is clearly still going on. I have put in a FOIA request for these, and assuming I get something back, I will of course share it with all of you. The reports also make some occasional mentions of things that the DoD didn't like or wanted removing or changing. And one thing that comes up a few times, in both video games and in films, is China being portrayed as the enemy. The Pentagon do not like this. One example I talked about recently on the Opperman Report is Red Dawn, the remake of the 1980s film where the Soviets invade the US, somehow sneaking up through Mexico. In the script for the remake, it is China who invades, and are fought off by a patriotic, all-American multicultural militia. The Marine Corps Liaison Office sent this to Phil Strubb for his consideration, and he said that they wouldn't cooperate unless the enemy's identity was changed. The producers refused to change that, the Pentagon didn't assist them, and so they had to go elsewhere for military advice, vehicles, and so on. As late as post-production, the producers changed their minds and decided to make the invading army North Korean. After all, if you're going to have a ludicrous storyline, you might as well go the whole hog. The media coverage says that this change was made so that they could sell the film to the Chinese market, but the film was never released in China. And the documents we got from the Marine Corps liaison offices show that the producers approached them again, asking permission to do a promotional premiere showing at Camp Pendleton. So I'm guessing here that their attempt to woo the Pentagon to endorse this truly shit movie had more to do with it than trying to get into the Chinese market. In the event, it was once bitten, twice shy. The Marine Corps said no to showing the film at Camp Pendleton. They wanted nothing to do with it. And they never even saw a rough cut before making the decision. It isn't because the film is so bad that they refused to help them. It was because they hadn't made the changes the Pentagon wanted when they wanted them made. And speaking of really bad movies, Battleship is another example of where the military managed to inject a lot of their agenda into the script. The Army's liaison office reports mention how the wounded soldier character was expanded significantly from the original cameo appearance to a major character instrumental to defeating the invading aliens and saving the planet, all while wearing an Army t-shirt. This is clearly the result of the Pentagon's influence, because the character was played by a real-life Army colonel. The reports go on to say, "The $200 million project is a pro-military chest thumper with corresponding recruitment benefits. Discussions are ongoing for participation by the services in a premiere red carpet event at Times Square, New York, May 18th. Assessment supports depiction of a trained and ready force to meet our nation's needs." Which is all true, if the nation's needs are to defend themselves against an army of aquatic extraterrestrial robots. So, hopefully these small details can be expanded quite a lot if and when the fuller script notes from the Army and the Marine Corps are provided. Number 2. I did also ask for copies of the production agreements on approximately 15 films, just to see how uniform they are, see if there's anything especially worthy of our attention. They are strong evidence of how formal and thus institutionalized this whole process is, but in themselves they are basically contracts, which are by their nature very boring to read. The DoD got back to me literally as I was writing this, saying that they don't have any in the Office of the Secretary of Defense for Public Affairs, so I'm going to ask the individual liaison offices themselves and see if I can get them that way. Interestingly, the DoD denied that they were involved in Avatar, Pacific Rim, Zero Dark 30, and The Avengers. They certainly were involved in these films to some extent, though in the case of Zero Dark 30 and Pacific Rim that was minor. The Avengers in particular is one that the DoD have tried to distance themselves from, despite continuing to be involved in subsequent Marvel films. The Army documents put paid to any denial. They detail how their liaison office provided access to the White Sands missile range for filming, and a company of soldiers for the climactic battle scene. However, aside from this new set of requests for the agreements for the dozen or so other films I'm trying to get documents on, I'm not sure what else to ask the Pentagon for in terms of FOIA requests. I started doing these requests not just to understand this all better, but also to get the evidence that this is going on. Before I started all this, I read various books and bits of books to see what had already been found and documented so that I wouldn't spend my time replicating existing research and journalism, and, where possible, so that I could get copies of some of their source material and post it here on my site. After doing that, I thought the best way to get evidence about what was going on today was simply to ask for it, which has proven surprisingly effective. But I am now at the point where I don't know what else to try and get, in terms of stuff that's actually plausible to ask for. They aren't going to give me top-secret strategy documents explaining their overall propaganda aims, if such documents even exist. More likely, there are no overall propaganda aims written down anywhere. It's more a mentality that is expressed and reinforced through conversation only. So, the next question is the CIA. Obviously, it's much harder to get documents out of the CIA than it is to get them from the DoD. Tricia Jenkins did manage to get a load of memos sent from Chase Brandon to the writer and producer of The Recruit that shows that Brandon essentially produced that film himself. But she didn't get those through the CIA. They refused her request and mine for material on The Recruit. Likewise, if you dig around on Brandon's website, you can find out about the 30 or more films, TV shows, and books that he was involved in during his period as the CIA Entertainment Liaison Officer. But the post-Chase Brandon period is less well known. Aside from Argo, Zero Dark 30, and a bunch of TV shows, I honestly don't know what the CIA has been doing since 2007. The CIA's Office of Inspector General reports on their engagement with the entertainment industry do fill in a few gaps in terms of how it all works, but not in terms of what they've been working on. Nonetheless, there are some records that they refer to in that report that I have asked for, and if we can get those, it will fill in some gaps. I do also have some other ideas, one which I'll tell you about and one which I won't, because if that comes off, it'll be great material for a book. The one I will tell you about is that I've been going through the last several years of FOIA logs for the CIA, records of the thousands of requests that they've received. I've noted down all of the ones relating to the entertainment industry, and I'm going to put in a request for all documents that have been released in response to those previous requests. It is possible that most, if not all, of these requests failed to dislodge anything, but if they did, I should be able to get that material. Going through the logs was somewhat tedious, but it is also quite fun. People file FOIA requests for the funniest things. There's a lot of stuff on JFK and UFOs and other obvious topics, but people also asked for records on Infowars.com, DavidIke.com, LulzSec, WikiLeaks, Anonymous, a few random Twitter accounts and other online identities. One requester asked whether Ho Chi Minh was a member of international Freemasonry. Another asked for evidence that the CIA is laundering drug money through NFL teams. A few different people asked for records on the contents of the box of artifacts from the Roswell crash that Chase Brandon has been talking crap about in order to try and sell his UFO book. And someone asked about the OSS using pornography in World War II, which may actually be true. The prize for the most witty FOIA request to the CIA has to go to whoever asked about their Twitter account. When the CIA finally joined Twitter, the first tweet they sent out was, "We can neither confirm nor deny that this is our first tweet." So someone asked them for records that would confirm or deny whether or not this was their first tweet. That really made my day. What else have I been up to on the FOIA front recently? I have been continuing to struggle with the Foreign Office. When I first started putting in requests to the FCO last autumn, I got a phone call from a nice lady who wanted to clarify my request so that they could process it within their time and cost limits and so on. I was then provided with a list of all the productions they've assisted since 2010. I asked for their communications with the producers of 2 of these productions, Downton Abbey and Spectre, and the production agreements. They gave me those pretty quickly too. Then, the nice lady who I'd been in contact with said that she was moving to another section of the FCO and handed me over to one of her colleagues, who has since essentially refused to answer my emails. I've only been inquiring about basic stuff, such as how someone gets permission to film the MI6 building, but he's ignoring me, it seems. They've also tried to avoid answering some of my further FOIA requests, including saying demonstrably untrue things. They claimed that all of their production agreements are essentially identical and from the same template, so they don't want to release other ones to me. The problem is that the 2 that I already have are not identical. They are not from the same template. I'm only guessing here, but I do wonder if they are deliberately telling untruths to try and prevent me from gathering the evidence of their involvement in the entertainment industry. The Ministry of Defense messed me around for months before finally providing me with an incomplete database of films that their subcontracted private company has assisted. They didn't even admit that a lot of it is handled by a private company until I'd hassled them and appealed and argued every step of the way. So I'm going to persist with the Foreign Office, if only because I don't like it when government departments tell me things that I know aren't true. I will say this. I phoned up the Information Commissioner's Office to ask them if it is illegal to provide false information in support of refusing a FOIA request. I was told that it is not. The FCO can, deliberately or otherwise, say anything they like as their reason for not releasing information. I expressed my bewilderment at this to the nice young man from the Information Commissioner's office, and then went back to tell the FCO what I thought of their refusal to release the documents. I await their response. Finally, the other day I read about a new movie called The Foreigner, which had blown up a bus on Lambeth Bridge in London as part of their filming. This had, somewhat predictably, created a bit of a stir because it was all a bit too fucking similar to what happened on 7/7. Indeed, if you watch the film, it's very similar, given how the explosion blows up the back of the top deck.
Whoa! Oh my God!
Quite a few people have complained about this, mostly on social media, but I think their reaction is quite justified. I read a story saying that the MOD, MI5 and MI6 had been told about this ahead of time, presumably so that they would know it wasn't the real thing. So I put in FOIA requests for documents relating to permission to film this bus exploding in the middle of London without warning the public. I've asked Lambeth Council, Transport for London, the Home Office, the Metropolitan Police and the Ministry of Defence for documents, so we'll see what comes back. One thing that made me laugh is that about half an hour after sending my request to the MOD, I received an email back from them addressed to a Mr. Whitehead, asking about his request. They included a copy of his request and his details. Obviously, I'm not going to share that information, but that's pretty careless stuff. It's not like my name is similar to his. I'm Tom Secker, he's Mr. Whitehead. I replied, copying in Mr. Whitehead so that he would know of the mistake, saying, "Dear MOD, I am not Mr. Whitehead, and you've just violated his privacy," which I am informing him of by copying him into this email. Get your act together. Your FOIA office is a bloody disgrace. Regards, Tom Secker. So, my misadventures with the Freedom of Information Act continue to be fun, and most of them continue to be quite productive. I do want to write a book on the CIA and the entertainment industry, but that will be a lot of work that I've sketched out in my mind, but which will take time. People have asked, given all the stuff I have on the DoD, why don't I write a book on them? The simple answer is that the CIA matters more to me, and I don't mind giving the DoD stuff away for free. Doing so has helped highlight this topic and my contributions to this area of research, and means that everyone has a mountain of evidence that this is going on. There's no room for doubt anymore, so I can now move on to the tougher question of the CIA, safe in the knowledge that I've made a unique contribution. I know this has been an episode largely about what I've been doing, so I hope it wasn't too vainglorious. I do enjoy doing this, and I think I'm pretty good at it, better than most. So I'm going to continue while I have the enthusiasm to do so, and while I keep coming up with fresh ideas for how to shake some apples loose from the FOIA tree. If you enjoyed this episode, you should check into my site spyculture.com, where you can subscribe via email or RSS, and this show is also available on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, and elsewhere. If you appreciate what I'm doing, then please visit the support page where you can buy a copy of my book or a digital download of one of my podcast series to help support and encourage me. I've been getting a lot of emails recently asking about stuff and telling me that you appreciate what I'm doing, so please keep them coming too. I have plenty more episodes and articles in the pipeline. My ongoing review of the new series of The X-Files will probably come together into a podcast. We're recording the new CIA and Hollywood, so that is really starting to gather some momentum now. So please do subscribe to spyculture.com to keep up with everything that's coming up. As always, I am Tom Secker of spyculture.com, and you've been listening to ClandesTime. So thanks for listening, and until next time, take care.